What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. Wanted to kick off today's show by taking a look at a couple of second rounders that could offer a lot of upside for the Chicago Bulls at the 45th overall spot there. Two guys that have often been overlooked as second round targets. I know I've talked about Janai Broom and Eric Dixon in previous episodes here. The first of which, guys, I wanted to take a look at today, Kobe Brea, the senior guard out of the University of Kentucky. At 6'7", 215 pounds, he offers some decent size there. And where he spent the 4 years at the University of Dayton, he was very productive and had decent numbers at the University of Kentucky in his fifth and final season at the college level this past year. He averaged 11.6 points a game and brought down 3.2 rebounds a game while shooting 47% this past season. This past season, the Bulls had dramatically improved their emphasis on shooting from beyond the arc. They ranked third in three-point field goals, 11th in three-point percentage, and second in three-point attempts. So the Bulls like to get up a lot of threes in this new style that they're playing. And I think, a guy like Kobe Brea offers a guy you could plug in to fit that mold. He's a solid three-point shooter. He knocked down over 43% of his threes on nearly 6 attempts per game last season with the Kentucky Wildcats. One of the more efficient shooters in the draft, and for a guy who's being projected to be taken in the second round, I think that offers a lot of upside, especially if you decide to go and pick a center at the 12th overall selection in the first round there. Before moving on to Kentucky, he shot about 50% of his threes, he made and hit just about 50% of his threes the prior season at the University of Dayton. So I think this guy offers a lot of upside when it comes to shooting the three ball. He's a very exciting option when it comes to that. He isn't one to create much off the dribble, but for a second rounder, that's not necessarily what the Bulls are looking to add at that spot. So the fact he doesn't create much off the dribble like that isn't much of a concern, I don't think. You're looking for a guy who can be a spot-up shooter, who can stay ready on the perimeter while the playmakers create. The Bulls' playmakers being Josh Giddey, Vucevic for the time being, Kobe White, and Kevin Huerter and guys of that like. So I think adding a perimeter shooter like that could offer a lot of excitement and intrigue for the Chicago Bulls, especially that late in the second round. The conversion rate on second rounders isn't always great, but taking a swing at this guy who showed a lot of flash in his college career when it came to shooting from beyond the arc, I think it's kind of a no-brainer to take a shot on a guy like that. It is a very strong possibility, even more so if they do go and take a center in the first round. So the second guy I kind of want to take a look at, another guard here, Hunter Sallis. He's one of the more interesting upside bets in the draft, widely expected to be available at the 45th overall pick for the Bulls. He started by having two pretty unproductive years at Gonzaga and then kind of revitalized his career after transferring to Wake Forest. He became Wake Forest's go-to scorer this past season. He shot a very solid 63% from inside the arc, making him a great slashing option for the Bulls. I think his efficiency at 6'5" with great length, he has the tools to mold himself into a very solid two-way guard who can fit in multiple lineups, and that's key. That aspect that he can fit into multiple lineups allows Billy Donovan to take a second rounder and kind of try him out in a few different looks and allows flexibility with the young Bulls lineup that Billy's going to have to figure out. Obviously he has his core, but you got to figure out what your looks are going to be and who you're going to put out there and plug in with who. And I think Sallis is a guy who is worth taking a swing on. And when it comes to that, he offers a lot of flexibility on how you can put him into a starting lineup there. So two guys that offer a lot of intrigue there I think are going to be interesting to look at. So now I've looked at, 4 or 5 second rounders. I know it's a long shot to get a second rounder to pan out. It's very rare, especially in today's NBA. But those are two guys that I think it's worthy of keeping an eye on at the guard position there. Wanted to transition into some news here that came out on the Chicago Bulls in terms of the front office. It's not coming as a surprise to me. When the Bulls turned down the Knicks' request to interview Billy Donovan, this kind of just, puts the pieces together in terms of why they did that so quickly. But it's rumored now that Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley have been extended. by the Chicago Bulls. The details on the extension and whatnot have not fully come out yet, so we'll be waiting to see on that. But AK and Eversley are going to be here for the foreseeable future, along with Billy Donovan. Now it is being rumored that Billy Donovan is working on another extension with the Chicago Bulls. I know I talked about him being extended back, I think, in the 2022 and 23 season. So that extension was probably for a couple of years. That's up. Now they're looking to re-extend him, and that's getting done right now. So that's a fun kind of note to look at because it tells you one thing, and that's that the Bulls ownership is all in on this group. They're all in on building with Billy Donovan as the head coach and this front office. Now, a lot of Bulls fans are probably not going to be too happy with keeping AK around. He's been probably the most criticized NBA executive in recent years because of his inability to choose a direction with this team and choose a path in which they're going to go. They've brought in veterans, tried to make that work. They had to obviously move DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine out of town. They tried to make that work for a while. It just wasn't panning out. So now with a new opportunity to have some job security there for these executives and the front office for the Chicago Bulls, along with soon to be another extension for Billy Donovan. We'll keep an eye on that, and when that detail comes out in specific, but locking those three guys up in terms of what the forward thinking is for this organization, I think it offers some excitement. It gives you clarity on what you're going to do, who's going to be calling the shots, so now you can focus on building a team on the floor. And I think they have a lot of big decisions to make this offseason, so it's a good thing that you're not going to have to deal with the distraction of who's going to coach this ball club and who's going to be calling the shots up top in the front office there. So very, very intriguing news there. I think if you're a Bulls fan in some ways, I know some Bulls fans are going to be a little bit PO'd by that news, but I think it's something to work with there. So, and kind of spinning off of that into more front office news, there is a top NBA executive that kind of leaked some news. I saw a report, they didn't state which executive, but there's an update on a Vooch timeline on when we could expect kind of a trade to go down and what we could see. And this source said that he thinks that the Bulls could move him before draft day or it could happen on draft night. So, being just a few days away from the NBA draft now, the clock's ticking on Vooch, and I've rumored him and put him in a lot of trade scenarios here in the last few weeks. So getting this done is going to be the first kind of step for the Bulls in reshaping and reforming this team. And I think the sooner the better that gets done. So expect that to be done either in the next week here or on draft night. I'd be very surprised if he made it outside of draft night with still a Chicago Bull. So, I think bringing in these young prospects and kind of seeing who the Bulls are working out and what they're looking to do in terms of who they're drafting says a lot to what they think of Vooch and his future here. I don't think it'll be much longer. So it'll be interesting to see how that timeline continues to take form there with Vooch. And overall, I just think, there's a number of things we're going to want to watch here. You bring in these young guys, the mindset at some point is that, Vooch is going to be moved. I expect Lonzo Ball to probably be moved at some point, whether it's this offseason or during the upcoming season. I think Vooch is likely to go to a Western Conference team. I don't think there's a lot, at least what I've seen to this point, there hasn't been a lot of buzz on Eastern Conference organizations kind of looking at him. I know I talked about Boston as a possible long shot for that, but I predict that he will end up in a Western Conference uniform there. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out there. We have a lot of moving pieces. The front office news for the Bulls was one that I, certainly expected. I didn't expect it to come out so soon, but it makes perfect sense, especially after the whole Knicks interview request news went down. So exciting times if you're the Bulls. I think there's a lot of intrigue for that second round pick there. I'm excited to see what they do alongside the 12th overall selection. Now, if Ace Bailey is available. I know his draft stock has fallen because of the news that came out on him, but if you have an opportunity to shoot up in the first round to grab a guard as well, I would not be opposed to that. So a lot of options, a lot of ability for the Bulls to make an impact here moving forward and to get this team ready for Summer League play and then moving into next season. So we'll keep an eye on all this stuff. As always, want to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see the Bulls do, what names you think interest you as Bulls fans, who you want to see in this organization moving forward, what free agents you want to take a look at, and also let me know what you think of the news coming out about Arturnis Karvasovas and Mark Eversley getting extended. How do we feel about that? What are Bulls fans' thoughts on that front office taking shape here? And what about Billy? Are we in on Billy? Are we out on Billy? Let me know. I kind of want to see what you guys think and how we're feeling there. So thank you again for joining me today. We will see you guys next time.